Oh Lord, last article for the night, okay? This is titled Dead Man Walking in Lent. Say dead man walking. Today, and many Americans will associate it with the 1995 movie of the same name about a man on Louisiana's death row. The film was a fictional adaptation of Sir Helen Prejean's 1993 book about her work with death row convicts in the Louisiana State Penitentiary. Both film and book received many awards and had a key cultural impact in the mid 1990s in terms of mobilizing the anti-capital punishment movement both in the Catholic Church and American society more generally. The phrase seems to have been a pre-1960 practice. Prison guards called it as they led a condemned man down a passageway to his execution. The phrase's origin is unclear. It could be cautionary, beware a dangerous and potentially violent prisoner who might risk anything. Honorific death row prisoners had a unique status. So make way, and or stigmatizing and jeering. Here comes a man who is already as good as dead. Yet look, he's still walking. Thank you. I have filed away in my mind such explanations of the phrase, dead man walking, assuming that it came from something like that. To my surprise, nearly 30 years later, two references in less than a week changed my mind. One was discovering that the phrase had been used by the English poet and novelist Tommy Hardy, his poem, The Dead Man Walking, was published in 1909. Many commentators claim the poem is autobiographical because of his biting attacks on class, religion, and social mores in his time. Hardy's reception as a novelist was mixed, certainly not as positive as Hardy thought his work deserved. If this gloomy poem is from 1890, it reflects a more personal role. Hardy's life was something of a mess, especially in his marriage, which seemed to have become something like a living death. They hail me as one living, but don't they know that I have died of late years, untombed although, question mark. See, what I'm trying to tell people that people think. Anyway, but a second insight into the phrase came in a sermon by my pastor and TCT controller, for real, Paul Scully. The Gospel of the Sunday just before Lent featured Jesus healing a leper. Or, as Scully observed, leprosy was a kind of living death, perhaps more accurately a living dying. A leper's body, although animate, is already decomposing. It's why in scripture Scully noted physical leprosy is a symbol of the spiritual leprosy of sin. One may still be walking physically, but is morally dead inside. This, of course, is no reason to discriminate against real-life lepers. The easy one-on-one correspondence of the earlier Old Testament between sin and suffering, already under stress in the book of Job, is not Christian theology. See John 9:2-3. But it is also not Christian theology to see no relationship between suffering and sin. Okay, this is the Skull Session by Leonardo da Vinci, Royal Collection, First Great Britain. Suffering and death are consequences of sin, at least in the sense that the progressive breakdown of relationship that culminates in death mirrors the progressive breakdown in human relationship across the board with God, one's fellow men, and even oneself, which originates in sin. Sin, after all, is responsible for the lack of human harmony and internal integrity, the conflicts among emotions, intellect, and will, and that internal disintegration is comprehensive. It's not just moral, but physically as well. What, after all, is death but the internal breakdown of psychomatic unity that the body and soul can no longer remain together? In that sense, then, dead men walking are not found just in Louisiana jails or on the rested heath. Several modern popes had criticized the loss of the sense of sin. One way that Catholics have lost that sense is not just in not talking about sin, but also how we do talk about it on rare occasions when we do. For a while, and in some places still, the traditional, especially homiletic attention to sin had gone into eclipse. But even to the degree that the eclipse is not total, it often remains partial. Rather than speak of the need to flee sin, some church figures prefer to divert the conversation to accompaniment, accompaniment, as if conversion was not the real goal. Even when we speak of sin, we often focus on structures of sin and other kinds of impersonal sin, to which personal sinful acts bear only the vaguest of links. So we get obscure forms of the examination of conscience. Is the essential crisis facing our common home really the result of my plastic grocery bag and accurately repented of by my paper straw? The very fact, yeah, the very fact of speaking of sin be free of further speculations. It is in itself a loss of the sense of sin. Catholic theology speaks of mortal and venial sins because it's really clear what acts generally fell into what categories. Mortal sin was mortal because it killed the life of God in one's soul. Grace, when we still spoke and categorized in those categories, the concept dead men walking was neither esoteric nor exclusively for the perpetrators of capital crimes. The person in a state of mortal sin was a dead man walking. He was advised to walk towards a confessional before that death became total and eternal. Lent is a good time for the soul. The paradox of Christianity is that man cannot die, though he can become a complete and eternal essential contradiction. God, in his goodness, does not take back his gifts, including life. That is why hell for unrepentant sinners and not annihilation is just. Hardy was wrong in thinking himself dead, though right in admitting I am but a shape that stands here. In a scene in that polished film, historic love stories, an unfaithful general is accompanied by his guardian angel down an elevator, representing his death, to a gloomy basement. As he exits, the general asks, "Did I die?" The angel's answer is, "No, you are alive. But what kind of life is this? Question mark. It's the life of a dead man walking eternally. The life we seek to avoid by our penance and practices during Lent." Okay? I don't know. I was just led to read this. Because I was looking at something else. Because I listened to my son, Jay the youngest song, Dead Man Walking. So I just typed in Dead Man Walking. Because I always liked that phrase, though. I guess my son knew that, though. Because I like that saying, Dead Man Walking. And I can tell if my son died, too. Like one time I was with my homeboy Joseph, and I don't know, he had on some damn funeral shoes. They were black funeral shoes. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I'm like, boy, you gonna die or some shit. He didn't say nothing. He just started laughing. Turn to find out he gone, y'all. And I said in my mind, dead man walking. I even got in my phone where I said I was gonna do a poem, but I forgot though. Hopefully the poem will come back to me. I might do it. But yeah, I like that phrase, dead man walking. But it was something else too, like something about some cars as well that I'm gonna do next time though. So yeah, enjoy. I'm done for the night. Baby, I'm gonna take my medicine. Alright. I'm thirsty, y'all. I think I can have this lady and come a vampire. Enjoy.